hear from the chair of Mecklenburg County, which is where we are right now in the city of Charlotte. So thank you to Chair Jarrell for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us this afternoon. And I am now going to turn it over to him so he can greet you all and share a little bit about what Mecklenburg County has going on. So please greet him with a warm welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor to be here this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. And I really appreciate you all choosing Mecklenburg County to host the today's retreat. It is always phenomenal. I'm gonna put these phones up here. And I know you all are having a great time in our community, and we certainly welcome you. And as one of your colleagues, I want to first say thank you so much for your service and for your work. And to the staff, we all know that you all do the heavy lifting in this work. We ideate, we get the opportunity to come up with the ideas, but you all bake the cake for us. So I certainly want to acknowledge staff. Madam Chair, again, thank you. Mr. Manager, thank you so much. And Annette, am I saying it right? I'm sorry. You know, I'll say Annetta. But Annette, thank you so much. You were amazing. And I want to tell you that some of my colleagues did say you were the best clerk out here. So yes. I'm a little partial to our clerk as well, but I know you're great. So a couple things. I'm not going to be before you long because I know you've got to get really in depth in your work. But again, I'm so appreciative, and we are so appreciative, and I want to bring you greetings on behalf of the 9-member Board of County Commissioners here in Mecklenburg County, where I do have the honor of serving as chair. So while I stand here as an individual and I have the opportunity to greet you, I stand on the shoulders of my other 8 colleagues who elect me to this position and allow me to do these things. And so I certainly want to lift them up and acknowledge each and every one of them because they are phenomenal servant leaders, and I am very, very fortunate to be able to serve with each and every one of them. I also would like to bring you greetings on behalf of our county manager, Mr. Michael Bryant, who is right across the street in the government center. He is a new county manager. He's not new to government, but 23 years in public service, but is a phenomenal leader in his own right. And I like to think that we make a formidable team in navigating Mecklenburg County. For those of you that don't know or not familiar with Mecklenburg County other than the city of Charlotte, I will tell you that I'd be remiss if I did not bring you greetings on behalf not only the city of Charlotte, but we also have 6 towns that people are not familiar with. But we do have 6 towns that are represented here, and 1.2 million people make up the footprint of this great county, where we also have approximately 160 people a day moving into this region. So we are rapidly growing. And I guess with the 45 addition today with you all, we can add to that number. But we really are honored that you chose to hold your retreat here. We're grateful for the opportunity to host you. And we know that retreats like this are not just about stepping away from the day-to-day. They're about stepping back to really reflect, to reconnect with purpose, and to sharpen our leadership for the people that we serve. So again, on behalf of our board and manager and the residents of our community, we want to welcome you to our community. We hope your time here is certainly productive. We hope it's restorative. And we hope that it's full of the kind of honest dialogue that good governance requires. And personally, again, I'm certainly honored to be with you today. I've been asked and tasked with covering a few things and a few topics, and I hope to share. And again, Brother Paul, I hope you will forgive me because I know you've forgotten more than I could ever convey to this crowd, so you feel free to correct me at any moment. But I do want to share some reflections on leadership. I also want to talk a little bit about my personal journey, which I would assume is akin to many of you here, whether you're elected or you're not, and a few other topic areas, and then I will certainly be out of the way. As it relates to leadership, though, I do want to say that I really want to start with something simple. And I think most of you would agree with this, that we all know that leadership is not about position, it's not about title, but it's about responsibility. And one of the things that I often say when I have the opportunity and the privilege to stand before people to even discuss leadership, as we all ran for office, one of the things and the reasons why I believe, and I had the opportunity to meet all of you all as electeds, and I can tell just by your energy and just by the way you interact and the way you engage that you didn't sign up for the job for the title, but you wanted to do the work. You come to places like this, you go on these retreats because you didn't need a title. You didn't want a title, but you wanted the job. You wanted the job, and you were ready to do the work. So for that, I certainly take my hat off to you and say thank you to each and every one of you, because we know leadership is certainly a responsibility. It's about the willingness to sit in complexity, to carry competing needs, to make decisions when the data is certainly imperfect. The politics, small p politics in quotes, are very loud, and the consequences are real. I tell everybody, we don't get layups as elected officials. It would be nice if the decisions were just as easy as our constituents say, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? If it was that easy, most of us would love to be the person that solved homelessness, right? Most of us would love to be the person that solved affordable housing, right? If it was that easy, we certainly would have done it. But there are complexities that we have to deal with. There are complexities of why we've been chosen to do this work. And we have to dig deeper than what's on the surface and what people tell us, why don't you just do it? And why isn't it solved? If it was solved, if we could solve it very easily, it would have been solved a long time ago, as we all know. And in local government especially, we don't get the luxury of abstraction. Our decisions show up in people's rants. They show up in their commute, show up in our schools, and in whether they feel safe, whether they feel seen, whether they feel supported in the community. And it's really a sacred responsibility that we carry, and one I suspect every one of us in this room takes extremely seriously. That leads me a little bit into what my journey is, just to give you a little bit of background and certainly my experience. I've had the privilege of serving on this board of county commissioners I'm in my fourth term. We do 2-year terms, which is a lot of fun. We love doing 2-year terms. We're constantly running. So thank you for getting that, Mr. Vice Chairman. But in this time, it certainly gives us something very valuable, and it gives me something very valuable, and that's really a longitudinal type of perspective. And when you serve multiple terms and you've been in office for a while, you stop seeing issues as moments. You start seeing them and realizing that we're dealing with systems. You stop reacting and you start anticipating. You stop asking what's popular, and you start asking what's sustainable. And I think we've all learned, and because I don't want it to be the I show, I don't want it to be the Mark show, I know that we've all learned certain lessons, and we've learned that real progress is almost never dramatic. It's oftentimes incremental, and how many of us can't stand this incrementalism? Okay, you guys are good with it. All right, cool. Sorry. But it is incremental at times. It's disciplined. It's also relational. It's built in meetings that no one sees and in decisions that no one celebrates. But over time, what happens, it compounds. And when it compounds, it actually changes lives. And that leads me to another topic that we want to discuss, and that is about Mecklenburg County. Because I believe that there's probably a lot of similarities. Scale is different, somewhat, but a lot of similarities in community. And so let me give you a snapshot of what we are navigating, and I think it will resonate with most of you. We have over 1.2 million residents here. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the Southeast. And we're blessed to be in proximity of Richland County, South Carolina. We add roughly 160 new residents a day. And growth, as you all know, is a blessing, but it's also a burden at times. It brings economic vitality, it brings innovation, cultural richness, and opportunity. But with that, it also brings a lot of pressure. So I referenced housing earlier, transportation, schools, healthcare, and infrastructure. Growth is not neutral. It's often unmanaged. It becomes inequitable. If it is unmanaged, it deepens the disparities that we have. If it is unmanaged, it actually erodes trust. So the central question for us has become, how do we grow and still belong to each other while we grow? How do we build a county that's economically competitive, but also, and this is very important to me personally, socially cohesive? That's the work that we deal with. And so that leads to a lot of different changes. And over my time on the board, I've seen three major shifts. I could say more, but primarily three major shifts. A shift from programs to systems. One thing I'll tell you about Mecklenburg County, we got a program for everything. This community right here, we do not lack programs. We got a program for anything that you can think of. Where our opportunity continues to lie is in systems work, which is not sexy, but it's tough. And what I've learned is that you cannot program your way out of our structural challenges. Affordable housing isn't just about building units, but it's about zoning. It's about financing. It's about land use. It's about transit access. It's about livable wages. Public safety isn't just about enforcement. We can't lock our way up, lock people up, and get rid of crime that way. It's about prevention. It's about mental health. Do y'all have mental health problems down there? Yes. Mental health issues? Man, that's big, right? We're dealing with the same thing. We are dealing with the same thing. Think about it. It's about community trust. How many people think it's somewhat difficult to build community trust? How many times you get calls from the community say, oh, thank you, great work, you're doing a great job, keep it up. I just wanted to call and say that. Oh, y'all get those calls? Good for you. We don't get too many of those. We don't. Community trust is something that is lacking for a lot of different reasons. Think about economic stability. How about education? The largest portion of our budget, Mr. Manager, is devoted to public education. Largest portion of our budget. And I will tell you, education isn't just about schools. It's about early childhood education. It's about family support. And it's about community alignment. And we've had to become systems thinkers, not just program managers. I'm going to say that one more time. We've had to adjust to become system thinkers, not just program managers. Counties can no longer afford to operate in silos. Our economy is regional. How many believe that the economy of Richland County is tied to Mecklenburg County? Thank you, brother. Thank you. Absolutely. Somebody said absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about the systems of the institutions of education that you all have, the leaders that you are producing. Many of them are in this community today. Right here today in Mecklenburg County is benefiting from the decisions that you all are making. So let me say thank you. Let me say thank you on behalf of our county. You have made our county better, not just Mecklenburg County, but you've made our region better. So thank you. We cannot operate in silos anymore. Our economy is not just regional. Our housing market is not just regional. I mean, it is regional, right? It is regional, excuse me. All of the issues that we tackle are regional issues. It is not strictly devoted to Richland or Mecklenburg County. Our workforce is regional. So we have to collaborate. Municipalities, school systems, hospital systems, nonprofits, faith communities, and private sector. We have to communicate. We have to all lean in. We all have to be at the table. Complex problems require coordinated solutions. If the county council was able to solve everything on your own, we wouldn't need anybody else. I mean, this group, you guys look like you could solve everything, but feel free to bring everybody else in too. We need a shift in public expectations as well. And we need to realize what the public expects in 2026. They expect transparency. They expect accountability. They actually expect speed. The idea that government can just move at a snail's pace and so on and so forth, that doesn't fly in 2026. The public doesn't, they don't go for that one. We have got to move, and we've got to move with expediency. They also want results. There's a lot of information out there, guys. They want results. They want to feel it in their pocket. They don't want you to tell them the economy is great and they're doing great, and they go to the bank account and it's negative. That's not where our constituents are. That's not where our communities are. They want to feel it. Whether the grassroots want to feel what the grass tops feel. Y'all feel me? Yeah, people on the boots on the ground, they want to feel what those at the grass tops are feeling as well. And we have to remember that. But most importantly, the public expects us to operate with a level of humanity, not working through partisan lenses. But when we go to the grocery store, when we interact within our communities, how many of y'all ask, who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's unaffiliated, who's Green Party, who's a Libertarian Party? Do y'all ask those questions? Nope, certainly don't. When people come up to us when we're out in the street, do they lead with that? Hey, I'm from the Green Party. Do they say that? No, they have problems that they want fixed. And they'll speak to anybody to get them fixed. When somebody's lights are about to get shut off, their water's getting shut off, they don't have food in the refrigerator, the kids are walking to school with holes in their shoes. When you've got schools that the quality of the education is determined by someone's zip code, that's a problem they want solved, and they don't care what's your title, what your party is, or what our party is. They want that problem solved. So there's a level of humanity that we have to work with that has to move beyond these crazy lenses that we've put in place. And so, colleagues, I'm going to offer a few suggestions, and I offer them with humility because you all are already doing the work. So please take it in the spirit in which I mean it. And I mean it in a spirit of encouragement. I mean it in a spirit of gratitude and thanking you all for what you do on a daily basis. I want you to remember and always protect the why. Let's not let the mechanics of governance drown out the purpose of service. Budgets, bylaws, agendas, and motions matter, they certainly do, right? That's the way we operate, that's the way we move things. But always remember, people matter more. So, and sometimes from the dais, how many people have fumbled from I fumble from the dais all the time, right? I fumble all the time, you know. But you know what? I get up and do it again because you know why? People matter. It's not about how Mark looks. Mark looks bad today because he fumbled the motion or whatever and didn't carry it right. Or I don't care. I don't care anything about that. I care about the outcome. I care about results. That's it. So yes, you've got procedural experts, you've got people who are awesome at the motions and they know how to do the substitute motion, friendly amendment and everything else, right? Madam Chair, you know, you're trying to keep up with it, Madam Chair, you know? You're like, no, that doesn't need a second, this needs a second, and but, you know. But at the end of the day, Madam Chair, you know what we've got to do? Keep the people first. Keep the people in the forefront of our minds. That's all we've got to do. And we'll always get it right. And so, as we're maneuvering, as we're navigating, let's always come back to our why. Let's also invest in relationships. My understanding is that you have a majority Democratic board, you have a couple of Republicans here, but mostly everybody's a Democrat, which I believe at the local level that really doesn't matter that much. But what I will tell you is this, is that relationships matter. Yes, sir. Yep, relationships matter. And I would say what I've found to be really helpful is to invest in relationships before you need them. Before you have to go to ask somebody to help you. You know, I think we should learn about each other. I think we should know what moves the needle. I think we should understand what makes people tick. You know, I've found that we're really not that far apart. You know, there's some ideological differences, there's some philosophical differences, there's some life experiences that have shaped us, and I think that's okay. Our board is better because of it. We have 9 Democrats on our board, but I can tell you there are varying degrees of Democrats, varying degrees. Some of us have a business background, and some of us have a social activist background, and everything in between. And we don't always see eye to eye on every single issue. But we need to build trust across differences really early. Because when conflict comes, trust is what's really going to carry us through. The other thing that I would offer up is we should govern for the long term. And not just the next news cycle. No? Okay. The loudest voices are not always the most representative. They're really not. The fastest decisions are always not the best ones. You know, a lot of times we try, let's get it off the plate, get it off the plate. No, sometimes we need to slow down. Sometimes we do need to dial it back. Sometimes we need to make sure we're not suffering from groupthink. Before I was chair, sometimes I would just make sure that I was trying to bring up an opposing viewpoint for the sake of us to make sure that we had a discussion so that people knew that we took it seriously, so that we were looking at all of the options that were out there. I don't want to just be part of the cosign choir. I didn't sign up for that. And my 230,000 constituents in District 4, and you're sitting in District 4 right now, didn't elect me just to be part of the cosign choir. They elected me to ask tough decisions. I have to tell these corporate juggernauts many times, because they'll say, Mark, we had a meeting and then you got on the dais and you asked these questions and you knew. I have to tell these guys all the time, I'm not asking for you. I don't work for you. I'm asking because my constituents expect me to ask you a question when you're standing in front of us. Yes, I know the answer, but they don't. And I don't work for you, so I'm not your parrot. So you've got to answer the question. Right? We've got Bank of America, we've got Advocate Health, we've got Truist, we've got some juggernauts that we have to lean into in this community. And you guys do too. You guys have all the big boys and big girls down there. You got them all, so you understand it. But we got to remember, we don't work for them. We don't work for them. They have to answer questions so that our constituents can hear. And a lot of times, yes, we know the answer, but they need to speak it. They need to commit. And our constituents need to make sure that they see us holding them accountable and not falling apart because they're standing at the dais in front of us, Madam Chair. So we certainly want to make sure that we're governing for the long term, not just the next news cycle. We are the stewards of the future. Even though we may not get credit for it, we have to lead anyway. We need to create space for dissent, and I touched on this for a second. Healthy boards allow for disagreement. We're professionals. This isn't personal. We're professionals. It's okay to disagree. How do we handle that disagreement? It's okay to have an opposing thought process. It's okay that my life experience has led me to draw a different conclusion. Two things can be true at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time. So allow for that healthy dissonance. Consensus is not uniformity. Unity is not sameness, and strong institutions can hold difference and still move forward. Most importantly, colleagues, I'd like to leave and share this with you. I want you all, and I'm going to say this for you because you won't do this as public servants and as amazing staff. I want you guys to be selfish, and I want you to take care of yourselves. I want you to also, and before I go deeper in that, I just want to say, I want you also, and I want us to be very mindful of the people who sacrifice to allow us to do this work. And I'm not talking about our constituents, I'm talking about our families. I'm talking about those who love us, care about us, and as we're running in and out, you know, sometimes not seeing kids and our spouses and loved ones, and we are moving in and about, and they're there to sort of pick up the pieces. They catch all the flack from us. They catch what we can't say to constituents. I'm asking you all to take care of yourselves. I'm asking you all to, to exercise amount of self-care, to be selfish at times when you know that you're tired and you just have to say no. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, I've got to have some personal time to get my head together. You give everything you have. You leave everything on the field. And many times, you're just running on empty. And we don't make great decisions when we're running on empty. We just don't do it, no matter how great we are. And so I'm going to ask you, one, to really take care of yourselves, exercise self-care, and also let's lift up our families because they make a lot of sacrifices that allow us to do this work. They make a tremendous amount of sacrifices. How many have children? Yeah. I suspect many of us have been late to games, to recitals, to events, even with the best intentions, because we've gotten a call. Or how many times have you been sitting in the middle of a recital, the phone, you got two phones, right? You got your county phone, you got your personal phone, the county phone goes off, like, okay, what happened? You got to step out, step back in, call again, constituent needs help. Our loved ones make a tremendous sacrifice for us to do this, so let's not ever forget that they endeavor in this work with us. And so, in closing, let me say, I really appreciate your attentiveness during this time. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Once again, we are honored to host you. We more than respect and admire the work that you do. We're grateful that in communities across this country, there are people willing to step into public service with courage, with humility, and with commitment. And we know that local government's not always glamorous, but it's certainly foundational. It's where democracy touches everyday life. So again, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for allowing me to be a small part of your retreat today. And I wish you a productive, honest, and inspiring time together here in Mecklenburg County. And I think I may have a couple minute for a question if you got one, even though I do have to run. But thank you again so much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. I don't know if anybody had a quick question at all. No? Okay. Well, I know. You did a great job. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. This is a small token on behalf of Richland County. And so true. Relationships do matter. Thank you for taking our call and coming here today. This is a start, I believe, of a promising relationship with Mecklenburg County and Richland County, and you have shown that in your actions today. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And then we're going to do a picture and ask County Council if you would all join me, please.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, three. Got y'all.
Hey, sir. You all right? Yes, sir.
Do I need to move over a little bit, or is this good? I don't know. I'm waiting for her to give direction.
Can you guys come closer?
Thank you.
Come up here.
So we'll center. Remember, you are fine right there. We just need to. Here we have the chairs together, Vice Chair Pugh, and I cannot see both of you, so if you guys can come forward or be on this side here. Mr. Lee, can you come right next to Mr. Brennan? I cannot see Mr. Livingston, so can you Mr. Livingston stay right here?
I got them in my frame.
So Mr. Livingston,
I can see Miss English.
what about Weaver?
I can see him too, yeah. But let's, Miss Weaver,
Mr. Weaver, can you go
side.
behind Miss English? Right there, yes. All right, yeah?
Yep. All right, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank y'all.
And I am a graduate of Winthrop University in South Carolina.
All right. Okay. No wonder.
That's
Make a table up. I need my book. I'll make a table.
No, we're keeping them.
Thank you.
Okay, I think so. All right, we're going to keep moving, just trying to keep everybody on schedule. If you want to grab a drink really quick, that's great. But we Justin McCoy. Yes. All right, did I miss anyone else? All right. You all, thank you so much for coming. Oh, no, Aisha.
Okay.
Y'all, the extra special, come on.
How are you?
Thank you. Aisha is really the special guest because she answered the call when I called and reached out over the holidays and really pulled all this together. So we thank you so much. We really do. And I'm going to turn this over to you to kind of take us away today.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy that you all are here in Charlotte. Hope your visit has been going well so far. My name is Aisha Sabor. I serve as the South End Director for Charlotte Center City Partners. We're going to take a trip to South End later and get to see the neighborhood, which I'm really excited about. But for those of you who are not as familiar with Charlotte Center City Partners, we are your municipal service district or BID district, as some people know it. And we're a nonprofit that focuses on driving economic, social, and cultural vitality in Charlotte's urban core. So that is Uptown, South End, and some parts of Midtown. Our work really spans a wide range. We work to support the growing business community, strengthening neighborhoods through placemaking, public space activation, and hosting events. Partnering closely with our city, county, transit agencies, and private sector, and really helping to guide that long-term planning and development in our districts to make sure that they remain vibrant, walkable, and welcoming. So I have some colleagues here with me that you all have met, and I know we're on a time crunch, so I'll skip through a little of this, but I want to just make sure that you know that Jalitha Jarrett is the Uptown Director, so all the activities that you do in Uptown, she plays a critical role in making them happen.
And I also graduated from Winthrop University.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yep, got South Carolina blood here.
From Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Okay.
Clint leads our planning and development team, is really just a wealth of information, is going to share a ton with you all throughout the tour. And then James Labar, who's trying to sit quietly over there, is our economic development guru, and he's going to share, we have some gifts for you guys too, but he'll share a little bit more about the state of the Center City and just the state of economics in the Uptown South End area. So we have a presentation for you all. We've heard that you all are working on some strategic planning, and this is your retreat. And so a lot of the new and exciting energy that's happening in South End is a result of strategic planning, strong community engagement, and in 2018, our City Council adopted the South End Vision Plan. So we're going to talk a little bit about that process, lessons learned, and some of the goals and values of the plan. So with that, I will turn it over to Clint.
Thank you, and good to be with you all here today. As Aisha said, what I'm really going to focus on is South End Vision Plan, kind of background, history, and then we're going to go out in the field and actually see how some of this is manifested. As she said, this was an adopted policy document in 2018. So we've now, COVID notwithstanding, we have the benefit of 6-7 years or so of implementation under our belt. And we've really been able to see a lot of what we were aspirational about bear out. We've seen a lot of what some of our concerns will be, continue to be that. But again, the goal is to really set the stage for a lot of what we're going to talk about in the field. So I'm going to blow through this. We're going to have some time for some Q&A here with us. I think our goal is to try and hit a 2:45 train. So that will pick us up right behind the hotel. Just give you a sense of time here. So again, if you have any questions, please hold them till the end of the presentation. But then there could be some that you ask that will quite literally be answered or shown in the field. So just again, be advised on that. Just to get going, as Aisha was saying, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the vision plan. We can't hit everything in here. This was a 100+ page document. But we want to give you an idea of some of the most important elements that we identified, and also talk about how we worked with the community and engaged with them along the process of this document, or of this initiative. So this was a community journey. This is easier for me to kind of see as I read. So I'm going to look back as I talk, if that's okay. This is, again, as we said, a community-driven vision for how the neighborhood should grow and evolve over time. We did this work in calendar year 2016-2017. It was adopted a little bit later in 2018 because we had a sea change election year on city council and basically had to kind of ramp up that adoption process all over again with that new body. Again, this was basically listening and working with the community, with key stakeholders, property owners, businesses, developers, neighbors, et cetera, to really determine what they see and how they feel the place should evolve over time. So we're casting like a 10, 20-year net vision, let's say, time horizon. And in parallel with that, this also informed significant design guidelines that were created, or excuse me, significant updates to our transit-oriented districts in Charlotte. So that happened in 2019, which really was a precursor to a lot more complicated process, the Unified Development Ordinance that our community just adopted in 2023, which was a really big, 2+ year effort to really overhaul and streamline our zoning policies and our ordinances therein. So what this did was really what the city recognized was our TOD districts around transit, particularly the rail corridors, were growing really fast. We needed to address those standards. We really couldn't wait a couple more years to get through the full process. So this was really a kind of test bed for that. Looking at engagement, we kind of had two buckets of engagement. There's kind of the big public, celebratory, episodic, your kickoff, your check-in, your reveal, but then you also have kind of that through line of engagement with your community as well. And so at the start of this process, we wanted to be really deliberate about putting together a steering committee of about 20 to 30, as I mentioned, key stakeholders that really, really live, breathe, know the district. So this was residents, this were small business owners, these were houses of faith, these were property managers, developers, et cetera. And that was a group that we convened, I want to say quarterly, over the course of those 2 years, and they really were the group that checked our work. They were looking at the analysis of the neighborhood as it came in, the early recommendations, and again, it was really critical to get a great cross-section of the community to put that group together. And again, I can't list, it's been now about 7, 8 years, but that list of steering committee members is in the document. In addition to that, we led throughout the process a series of targeted focus group discussions. So again, there's going to be arenas where certain groups, certain communities are going to feel more comfortable giving their honest opinion, as we all know. So we were really deliberate in kind of giving the opportunity for those targeted conversations to happen in those small 5 to 8 person groups. And again, that was those usual suspects, right? It was property owners, it was small business owners, it was developers, it was planning department staff, city, staff at various departments and county departments that were relevant to the work we were doing. And then finally, we really leveraged, as Aisha mentioned, we are the bid organization, and in that capacity, we have a lot of regular touch points with our community, whether that's our monthly small business meetings, our property management meetings, meetings with small business owners and residents. So again, we just leveraged every opportunity to just ask questions or to check our work, to really amplify, because it's in a neighborhood like South End that's changing so rapidly and evolving so quickly. You also get a lot of turnover in residents. So you get the folks that come in, live in the neighborhood 3, 4 years, really new to the city, trying to figure out where exactly they're going to plant for the long term. And so that can be a little hard to really drive long-term engagement around things like this, where quite frankly, no one who was involved in this process more or less lives in the neighborhood anymore, right? Like that's a barrier to overcome when you're thinking about it, especially in fast-growing districts like this. Forward. Oh, excuse me, and then this image actually, and we'll go through this space later on the tour, this was our public kickoff meeting. And this was really where we were asking questions, really gearing towards what do you want to see for the neighborhood? At the time, 2016, South End, the train had been opened in 2007, about 10 years of the first Blue Line. We had a huge wave of residential that was built in kind of immediately after the 08-09 recession and kind of leading into 2015, 2016. But we really didn't have the neighborhood services, the commiserate retail, the office market, et cetera. It was really overbalanced towards a bedroom community. People came there, they slept, they got up, they went to work wherever they went to work. At that time, that really wasn't South End. Now that's changed, and again, you'll see that when we get into the neighborhood. But But again, community kickoff, gather ideas, educate people why you're doing what you're doing. What's the point of this process? What's the outcome, or intended or otherwise? And inspire people about what's possible. Again, you're casting a vision for the future. We do a midpoint check-in. So again, about a year into the process, we held a big public meeting, again, leveraging one of those regular occurring cadences that we had. And we really said, this is where we're headed. Here's some early look at what we're thinking in terms of recommendations and changes that we're suggesting, or policy implementation, really to kind of get a gut check with the community. And then at the end, we had what we called Future South End Tour. We created a passport and had little stations. So as community members came in, they got their passport, and you could go to the retail section, or you could go to Live, you could go to Parks and Recreation, you could go to Transportation, et cetera. And really making the document that can be really plenary and really, specific policy wonky, really translate it in a way that made sense to the community. So that was really helpful. That vision, again, just to read this is about a 20-year outlook. South End is a walkable, people-first urban district supported by vibrant neighborhoods, built on transit, and fueled with energy and innovation from some of Charlotte's most diverse and creative people. Aspirational statement, right? You're speaking some truth of what's there, but you're also casting that vision, as we said. So, looking at this with the benefit of 7-8 years, a lot of it holds up. Within the document, we have what we would call the framework, right? This is more or less how things nest within each other. So you have your vision, that statement that we just saw. You have 7 overarching goals, kind of things that every recommendation you do needs to call back to or ladder up to, speak to in some form or fashion, whether it's supporting one or multiple goals. They're kind of your North Star. It also identifies a set of core values. So, things, the neighborhood, these are both emblematic of the neighborhood, but also the kind of changes we want to see, right? Adaptable, authentic, beautiful, connective, again, without reading through all of these, but just these are kind of the adjectives, the things that we heard from the community they value in the neighborhood, they want to preserve, or they want to enhance. And then finally, 5 specific focus areas. We'll go through 1.5 of these today. We just don't have the time to cover, and it's a long linear district. But these are where we get a little more specific with physical recommendations. So there's overarching policy recommendations, things about density and design guidelines, et cetera. But then there's also 5 areas where you get a little bit more specific. So not going through all of these. We don't have the time. But grow by design, what does that mean? Expect density. Pay attention to the details. The neighborhood should increase. We're growing up, not out. It's a very linear, roughly bound by South Boulevard and South Tryon, about 2.5 miles long. It's as narrow as 2 blocks in some. It's as wide as 5-6 blocks in others. But again, the expectation was we're going up. We're not growing outward anymore. And then also having a greater diversity of uses. Again, I mentioned very monoculture at this time, very much residential, some ground floor retail that would serve it, but not a whole lot. And then finally, just paying more attention to the design details, the urban design, the way it meets the street, the way you embrace the rail trail, which we'll see, the way you engage with parks and other public spaces, things that we had a lot of mediocre examples. We had a few really great all-stars that just did it right, but they didn't have to. They just were good developers and did the right thing by the neighborhood, which we'll get to why we needed to up the design guidelines. Too much variety of product or quality of product was permissible under previous standards. Expand our mix. Again, very little retail in the community at this point. There was some, long-term restaurants, some bars, some things that have been in the neighborhood since before it was really what it is now. But again, supporting and adding more small businesses, helping increase, helping make it a better shopping destination just beyond the food and beverage, and then bringing in that daytime use, so the office component. And again, James can speak much more to that than I can, and certainly will do so when we get out in the field and see some of these corporate citizens that have now planted their flag in the neighborhood. And then another one, just celebrating public space. At this time, we really had the rail trail, and that was about it. And even then, at that time, this was when the trail was pretty ad hoc. Basically, if you developed along the Blue Line, you were required to build out what was effectively a sidewalk and was literally an egress path for maintenance vehicles. So if your building caught on fire, a fire truck could get between you and the rail line to service that emergency. Well, we had examples of developers who would go above and beyond, really do great things to their side of the trail, but then you would get to the next adjacent property, it just becomes an asphalt path again. And that was fine at that time. But again, looking at how we can amplify and celebrate that public space, this is an example of a pop-up, this photo here of an installation that was done at a location that is now a bar, canopy, cocktails. They've taken this space. They basically did that, but they did it permanently and invested and did it. And this was like a month-long pop-up demonstration we did one spring in 2016 just to say, hey, look, people want to hang out in these cool little found. This was a parking lot behind an art school. That's all it is, or was. And then finally, just another one that's very important for the neighborhood, prioritizing pedestrians, connecting increasing modes of transportation, and embracing the mobility revolution. So as we get out there, again, you'll see we've done some projects to close gaps in the rail trail. We're working on a new pedestrian bridge that will link the uptown and south end sides of that facility, adding additional transit stations in the neighborhood in an area that has gotten crazy dense since the line was built in '07. And then looking at those east-west connections. Again, as I mentioned, South End's very linear. The trail runs right through the middle of it. And a lot of times we struggle with those like 2-3 blocks off folks kind of saying, well, we're right there, or it's so close. Can we make this more obvious, make it easier to cross major thoroughfares? Can we more formalize connections to that asset? A lot of which has happened. And again, we'll see examples of that. And then real quick, just going through two of our focus areas. There's the South Tryon. So this image right here, this is South Tryon and West Boulevard. This is the location of a now public park. At the time, this park was not built. But again, looking at kind of a watercolor rendering, a vision of, we're not saying this exact architecture is what's going to happen, but this is the scale and type of building and density you should expect to feel in this area. Incidentally, 2 of these towers are there. They're real. They happened exactly where we thought they were going to happen. But again, looking specifically at South Tryon, right, those 5 focus areas, what were we saying? Developing South Tryon as a new office corridor. That central business district has really jumped over 277, our downtown beltway, into those first 5, 6, 7 blocks of South Tryon. And so we saw that coming. There was one project maybe bubbling up about that time, the rail yard in 2016-17, that has since delivered, and now 5 or 6 other major commercial projects, office projects, hotels, et cetera, have really jumped into this corridor as well. Again, just building expectations. Incorporating new development that adaptively reuses old buildings. This is a huge difference between Uptown and South End. There was a lot of older kind of brick storefront walk-up type distribution warehouses built all along the former rail line, the former freight line that is now the Blue Line light rail corridor. All of those buildings were not torn down in the way that they were in Uptown. Those were those spaces where those first wave of restaurants, this first wave of small businesses, especially the local folks, can really get in and get a toehold and have opportunity, as opposed to largely newly built space in Uptown that commands a premium, not only to build out, but then to rent once it is built out. And so that's something we've absolutely seen a major response to in South End versus Uptown. And it's really, really, again, you need old buildings. You need old buildings to give that character, that patina. And it was something the neighborhood valued. It was very, very loud from the neighborhood of like, we don't, not to put down Uptown, but they're like, this is what makes us special. This is what makes us unique. We need to protect it. Camden Road, this is really Main Street, South End. We'll be walking up and down mostly this corridor today. We'll deviate a little bit. But again, similar, expect greater density, expect higher buildings, especially close to transit stations, expect more residential on this corridor. Again, here, convert it to a curbless programmable street between South Tryon and Tremont. While we haven't gone curbless, I can tell you, and a lot of our events team can attest, we close that street a lot, and it's become a really powerful place to convene, to celebrate, to just kind of, we do a variety of events that are focused on, commerce around Shop Small Saturday and Thanksgiving holiday. But we do another major event 3 times a year in the spring called Camden Commons, which is just a block party. It's just a time to close the street, invite the neighbors. You know, visitors are welcome, guests are welcome, but we deliberately kind of market it to the neighborhood as come meet your people, come hang out, meet your community, and, you know, get involved. And that's, again, all happening on this corridor. Using art, LED lighting, and other elements to celebrate the Design Center water tower. We'll see that as we walk by as well. And then this is a little more functional, right? But Hawkins Street is a street that parallels Camden. Well, if you're going to do all this great stuff on Camden and be closing it periodically, you need to make sure your service street works so that you're not shutting down your operators, your businesses when you're doing these things that they love. So that was one, again, just a very specific for this focus area of like, wow, Hawkins Street is going to become even more critical as a loading point for decks, for major trucks and deliveries, et cetera. And then finally, just top 10 initiatives. You know, we highlighted 10 things that if nothing else happened, these were things that the neighborhood voted on, valued, said yes, endorsed. And so those were, you know, 2 per slide. Continue expansion of the rail trail. What's crazy is this image now of like that whole site is developed in a phenomenally oriented way towards the trail businesses that open up patios, et cetera. So again, we'll see that. Converting South Boulevard into a main street that favors peds and cyclists and transit users. We've implemented, I think, 7 or 8 signalized pedestrian crossings of South Boulevard and South Tryon. Again, those 2 big arteries on either side of the neighborhood that really help folks from Dilworth and Wilmore, the adjacent east-west neighborhoods, get in and out of the neighborhood and not have to feel like you got to get in a vehicle just to safely get across South Boulevard. Preserve affordability and encourage entrepreneurship. Not going to lie, this is the hardest one we have to deal with. We're very limited, like you all are in South Carolina, here in North Carolina, with the types of tools and policies we can really use to affect that. But what we have been successful with is working with our local property owners, stakeholders, developers to get them to see the need for preserving those spaces for local small businesses, for underrepresented business owners, for, you know, so it's not just the regional chain that you're going to see in Charleston, Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh, Nashville, et cetera. You know, we have those. We're great. We love them. They're doing well. But it can't just be that. That speaks to that authenticity of place. And we've also had a little bit of success with getting some developers to develop not only micro residential units, but micro retail units that share shared services like their mail rooms, their loading zones, their restroom facilities. So you might have, I think we have 2 buildings now in South End, the Winifred and the Winston, that both kind of, you know, these are 400 to 800 square foot spaces that are very low barrier to entry. And that's been a piece, that's been a successful tactic for us. Constructing an urban neighborhood park, as I mentioned, that one that was in that rendering, it is now there. Implementing new design regulations to ensure high quality and contiguous public realm. Very, very important. Again, we were getting too great a variety of conformity to our code. We had people that would do good things. Then we had people that said, I don't want to do good things because I don't know that my neighbor's going to do good things. And why would I spend the money to develop this really great edge, ground floor experience, et cetera, when my neighbor might just be crap? Fair. And again, we'll talk some of those policy changes that were made. Attract significant cultural facilities. This is something that the neighborhood has lacked heretofore. And at this point, we've had 2 major universities relocate their regional kind of presence in Charlotte to the neighborhood. Elon University and Northeastern out of Boston both have presences in South End now. And then very soon, we will potentially have one of our major cultural institutions moving into a new home there right in the heart of the neighborhood, which is great because it's been something that like Uptown eats your lunch comparatively with attractions, cultural institutions, sports and entertainment, et cetera. So this is something that's really great that we've been folding in. Constructing a new transit station at Publix and Iverson Way. Again, we'll be really close to that station area. We'll talk more about that then, but that's happening. It's funded. Under design. They're going to start the track work and systems utility work this year, and that's just a huge, huge deal. Increasing density at transit stations. Again, that pink building there in that image, that was really the only building above 10 stories in the neighborhood at this time in 2016. We've now broken that plane 5, 6, 7, 8 times over, and they're all, by and large, clustered around these station areas, which makes sense. managing parking as a district. So this was a neighborhood that was not built for tens of thousands of people to be, it was a former industrial corridor that was a warehousing district, which meant bigger roads. It meant, big spaces and flexible, large warehousey type spaces. But it also meant like a real lack of public amenities like managed parking. So it was kind of a free for all. And especially as the neighborhood has matured as a shopping destination, as a regional destination in and of itself, we had to get smarter about how we manage those resources on the street. That really went into effect last year in a big way. And we spent like better part of a year or two doing a lot of hand holding with small businesses in the neighborhood just to, hey, this is coming. Hey, this is what it might look like. Hey, it's here. Like hit them multiple times and just, can't be said that we weren't trying. However, there's other elements to that beyond just parking. We now have such a need for comprehensive curb lane management, looking at things like drop off and pick up with Uber and Lyft, with DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that, that obviously exploded. They were here. COVID just amplified it. And then as we have now hotels coming into the district in a major way, again, just another level of like service that hasn't been in this community, that when we say manage our common resources, we really mean curb, really. And then just lastly, 4 major things from a design guideline standpoint. And again, we will see and point out examples of these while we're in the field. But 4 things we really look at: prioritizing ground floor activity and uses by frontage, right? Your streets that you're fronting matter. One of the big efforts that was done in conjunction with this study was we reclassified all the streets in South End. And why does that matter? That dictates a lot from a zoning perspective of what uses are on what type of street, how much glazing you have on the ground floor, how many doors or space between open spaces there should be, et cetera. And so basically getting what on the left, not a bad urban edge. It's off the street. You can't look directly into someone's ground floor. Those are good townhome edges, but there's no commercial space. Now, at the time when those were built in 2004, 5, 6, didn't make any sense to put any space there. But now you can at least build the ground floor to a height that can eventually accommodate commercial space. So we raised the ground floor height limit from, I think, a minimum of 12 to a minimum of 18. So it doesn't have to be a commercial use, but it does have to be a space that can eventually support that if and when the neighborhood matures. Treating the rail trail as a public street. Again, I mentioned some folks do a great job, some folks do a less great job. This is less of an issue now because of these changes. But again, you just got a real variety of how people would treat that former kind of backyard. And then minimizing the physical and visual impact of the car. This image on the left is South Boulevard. This was a project that was built right before we did this. Thankfully, you couldn't do this anymore, meaning cars behind bars. It's built 2 floors of podium parking and then 4 floors of residential on top on a main street on South Boulevard. That's insane. Versus the example to the right where, yes, you see the parking because there's an empty lot next door that hasn't developed yet, but their street edge is ground floor active space, commercial uses, or things that will actually contribute to the public realm as opposed to just get behind the car, get out of the vehicle and leave. Requiring urban streetscape details, so no more tiny little sidewalks with planter strips. You need to actually put those trees in tree wells. And this is not every street. This is not every, again, this is about the priority frontages, the main streets, the areas around our transit stations, et cetera. And again, this is a bird's eye, just to end. This was 2015. This is kind of what we were saying was coming. And we're going to get out there and today, and you'll see that a lot of this actually did happen. So a lot of these kind of taller vertical elements, these buildings have either been built, are permitted, are approved and waiting for their capital stack. But again, we'll see a lot of, I just blew through a lot of information really quickly. So doing a time check here. We've got maybe 5 or so minutes for some questions here. Or sorry, let me.
No, you're good. So yes, no questions here. But only just to give everybody time to get themselves together and situated to get there. Thank you. This is just a good brief overview. When we get out in the site, we'll see more. But to kind of make the connection and put it together, As we talked about in 2026, we'll be completing our comprehensive plan. So each of us within districts throughout Richland County will have areas like this, impact areas that we want to look and grow and redevelop. Not everything in here applies to us or your district. Maybe it's only one or two things, but it is to look at and reimagine Richland and what it is that we can take away and start to help with redefining and growing our district. So before we go, we also want to say again, thank you so much. And we have gifts to you all on behalf of Richland County for taking time out of your day to come and share and show us around. So thank you. Yes. All right. And so